Yeah, I mean, we did all 3 days. It was hardcore. So I found great leather. Found out about like a massive calfskin shortage. Have you heard about this?
I haven't actually.
Yeah. So Annonay, like they have whatever partnership or ownership by Hermes, and I guess Hermes is like continuing to grow like leaps and bounds. And Annonay is buying up all calfskin. And so even Annonay, though, they have very little to give to anyone else. So like other calfskin producers are having a really, really hard time like selling any leather, which I was looking for some calf, and we use Annonay, and even them, they're like, well, like we have very little available. So it's like trying to get what you can.
Yeah, it's always, I mean, it's a tough raw material. We used to tan calfskin like in like the 40s.
Literally 100 years
Right.
ago.
Yeah.
And I mean, even after that, but we try it every couple of years because we do have some stuff that would translate well onto it. But the raw material is just so tough because it's not, you get it and it's like, it's the way it's been explained to me is that the calfskins that you get now are not like the calfskins that you would have gotten like in the 40s for example, because like those were like actually calfskins, and now you're getting like young cows.
Right.
So they're bigger and they've got the grain isn't as fine. So the product doesn't command quite the premium unless like Annonay and like the European calfskins are nicer.
Yeah.
Is the general consensus, but they all get bought up in Europe.
Yeah.
So
we saw calf. And we were like, this is a really big size.
It's a 50-foot calf.
Or this is a really like thick skin. How is that possible? And it's not,
Yeah.
But speaking of I don't know, something that I saw in Milan, I don't know how long you guys have been doing it, but I saw ordered the olive tanned Chrome Excel, which I guess it's not really Chrome Excel. But yeah. That's going to be new for us.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, tanned with so instead of chrome, it uses olive extract.
Right. Yeah.
It's cool. Yeah, it took us a couple of years to get that certified, and because it's a German company that it's like their sort of system, and then you
still have to figure out how to tan it.
Yeah, well, they come and they just come and teach you how to do the base tannage, and then they want to make sure that it has the right concentrations of everything, and then you're following the procedure correctly, and that it doesn't contain any, other chrome or anything like that, because the product is supposed to be totally chrome free. And then they're like, we'll license you the formula, basically is how it works, and then they sell you the extracts and stuff. And yeah, so it's a base. It's like another base tannage that we can put a lot of different stuff over. It's interesting.
Yeah,
yeah,
it looks good.
Yeah, I mean it's a different industry of byproducts.
Right,
so we're using byproducts from olives now too.
Yeah.
I feel like you guys started the show without me.
We did start. We're talking about Linea Pelle.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
You have a good time.
Just got back.
Yeah. Worth going?
Yeah, it's always worth going. So, now I have, like we were saying, I have 2 kids. And so I try not to it's hard to get away. And, but the only way to see new leathers is to go to Linea Pelle. You have to go see the leather. And so the good thing about Linea Pelle is everyone's there. I mean, it's not every tannery in the world, but it's pretty darn close.
It's a massive show.
Yeah. And so I was just, talking to Nick about this new olive tannage, and I probably would not have seen that if I didn't go to Linea Pelle.
Was there a standout leather that you, other than that olive, I suppose, that you came across?
Yeah. So there is a tannery called Tempesti. We've never used it before. I'm super familiar with it. So I went to their stand, their booth, and they have this leather where it's essentially an over-dyed veg. So there's like the base veg color, variety of browns, and then they over dye it with a black, but the black isn't like really ironed on. So you can buff out the black.
Yeah.
Or as you wear it, like the black starts like wearing away, and then you see the undertones of the brown.
It's a T-core.
Yeah, it's T-core, but you can specify like the color you want underneath.
Yeah.
So you could like literally do, whatever, green underneath. You can do white on top instead of black. And then they have different like formulations where there's versions where you have to like use like water and buff it at the same time to be able to like break away the black. Or you can get, what we got is going to be easier to T-core.
Yeah,
T-core.
To see the T-core. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. T-core, when did that, I don't know when that term came about.
Nick told me, I guess you asked your dad, and he was like, yeah, this is a super old thing. It's not new.
Yeah, it's not
but
new.
It's become like popular.
Oh, yeah.
Yet again.
Because we've always used black chrome excel that's not, struck through. And we never referred to it as T-core. And then the T-core craze happened.
Yeah.
And we're like, we've always been
It's
T-core.
awesome. Yeah, it's awesome.
It is. Yeah. Black chrome excel. We have a ton of like boots that are that we've saved throughout the years. So at Independence, which is like our sister store in Chicago, we sell Oak Street there. We got a ton of like black chrome excel examples, like hanging, by the shoestrings, old ones, and they're amazing. Just like, I mean, that's not for everyone. Like a lot of people,
it's a look. Yeah,
a lot of people probably see those and think, they're just old, dirty boots.
But that's what people are. I think that's what people are into right now. Is like very something totally rugged and awesome that like shows that there was a life that was lived in these things.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's that, and like not tight jeans, I think is where it's at right now, as far as I could tell.
I'm with you on both of those.
Yeah.
All right. So you guys jumped the gun on me. Is everything sounding good? And
it sounds good. Play the song. Let's introduce George.
All right. Let's do it. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Full Grain Podcast. I'm wearing a mask today. If you're listening to the podcast, you have no idea. So you can't judge me. I know there's like a stigma with the mask things right now. I'm not making a political statement, guys. I'm just trying to keep my friends safe here.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. Well, today we're here with George from Oak Street Bootmaker. It's really great to have you in my basement.
Thank you. I'm excited.
I want to start off and ask you a question. Why make things in the United States?
Yeah. So, it's kind of funny because I am 100% Greek. I was born in the United States, but I'm 100% Greek. And we have completely devoted Oak Street Bootmakers to the United States because it's preserving American shoemaking. So when we started in 2010 making shoes in Maine, there was an industry there. And even in the past 12 years, like Maine is dwindling in terms of the amount of hand sewers you can find. So, I remember writing down in 2010 that I wanted to preserve American shoemaking. And it's not just the styles that is part of it, but it's the craft of American shoemaking. And it's our actual mission. And it's happening. It's not just Maine Handsewn. It's a great example is we have a boot called the Jump Boot. It's like a limited edition Lakeshore boot. And when we relaunched our Lakeshore boot, it was completely hand lasted. This is a few years ago. And we wanted to revisit broguing. And so our broguing is much smaller than it was in the past. And, a lot of old, great American brands, they have like an archive of dyes. And cutting dyes and broguing dyes are very expensive. And so before we were ready to settle in on a dye, and we were trying to figure out what the size should be and what the brogue pattern should be, our plant manager was like, well, why don't we just freehand it and we'll see what they look like. So we tested out freehanding. It looked amazing. And then we wanted to match up like this freehand look. And he was like, well, why don't we just freehand it all the time? And we saw the freehanding happen, and it's little punches and just hit the punches. And we're not using a guide even.
Really?
Yeah.
He's just doing it to taste. It's like,
exactly.
That would look neat. Yeah.
And, but that's an example of like a skill that if we hadn't just asked, that's something that would have gone away. And so now, instead of one person freehand broguing, he's trained another person to do the freehand broguing also. So, it seems like this impossible mission, preserve the craft of American shoemaking, but it happens through examples like that.
Well, what was it about American shoemaking that made you want to spend all this? It's been over a decade.
Yeah.
Trying to preserve that. What was special about it that spoke to you?
Yeah. So I, not everyone knows, but my dad is a Greek immigrant, and he has a shoe repair in the suburbs of Chicago. So I grew up working in that shoe repair, and the best shoes that we would see day in and day out were always American-made shoes. So, and I think there was a bias, that my dad has toward American-made shoes. I think he feels like he owes something to America, like a thank you, for having him create a wonderful life here and grow his family here. And so looking back, we were repairing a lot of Allen Edmonds. Like the county courthouse is in is where my dad's my dad's shop is near the county courthouse. So like, all the attorneys, the judges, they would all bring their shoes to my dad for repair. And it was, this is 1990. And in many ways, like a great era for Allen Edmonds. We would see a lot of Aldens. And so, my dad would just he would show me like what the shortcuts were in other shoes, which ultimately led to, some of the design that I do. Because we would always see shoes that were messed up, so we wouldn't see the perfect shoe. We would see like what had failed. And so that ultimately led to like some design choices down the road when I started Oak Street. But yeah, I have this affinity. I have this love for Made in USA. I mean, generally everything I'm wearing is Made in USA. Independence, our sister shop, like it started as only American-made clothing. Now we have, some like made in Japan, just because I appreciate that as well. But I love American made.
Means good to me. I also love American made. Yeah, I think that I've seen it too. Like the industry in Maine in particular. I mean, it was the hand sewing part of it was always sort of amorphous because people would do it at home, and you drop off like kits of leather, and then people would
laundry baskets often
sew them up and then return them as like shoes to be then finished at the factory.
Yeah.
So it's always sort of been literally a cottage industry.
Yeah.
And I think that has just kind of gone away. I'm not really sure if it's, I don't know. I'm not, because you'd think that would be kind of I was gonna say fun. Maybe fun's not the right word, but that would be easier to pass along that kind of trade than something like running like a stitching machine, like in the factory. Like that's a little bit more, you have to be a little more focused.
Yeah.
So it's always, I sort of have a hard time wrapping my head around like why the actual hand sewing part of it is the hardest part. But that's the case in factories too. I know there's a couple of factories that I've talked to that have some hand stitched components, and they're like, that's the hardest.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing.
Yeah. It's
get. Yeah.
It's the hardest part. It's always where things get backed up, but it is like something you can learn. You know, like we used to do events where we would bring Brandon, a hand sewer. He was like, you know, the first time we brought him out, he was like 19 years old, and we brought him to an event, and he taught me how to hand sew. And, you know, within weeks, you can become pretty good. Like you have to work on like reject leathers, and, you know, you have to learn in that way, but it's learnable. But, you know, you guys at Horween experience it too. There is a labor shortage. You know, it's like, it is what it is. And it's very hard to find people who want to learn hand sewing. It's tough.
I feel like I've heard that line a lot, and I believe it. But I think the criticism of saying something like that these days, it gets a little political right now, where people would say, well, like, you just got to pay more. It's like, yeah, sure. But do you want to buy, you know, hand sewn moccasins for $1,000?
Right.
Like, do you want to pay for it? Why don't you step up? And
yeah.
There's an economics thing involved too, which is, I find it to be terribly sad. Like you're saying, saving some of that industry in Maine. It was basically the whole state. Was making shoes or leather or anything related to the footwear industry.
I mean, it's a shadow of what it was even 10 years ago. I was just there a few weeks ago, and you know, I think if I wasn't doing what I'm doing, which is trying to support it as much as possible, I think people would be saying like we're in the last decade of American-made, made-in-Maine shoes. It's so small, like the amount of shoes that are still made in Maine. It's half of what we do, but it's, you know, it's tiny. And
I have a feeling, my suspicion, and we talk about this, it's come up a few times on the show already, cycles. Like everything sort of goes in cycles. I think we're like, I actually think we're going to start seeing an uptick in more American-made stuff.
I think so. Yeah. So when I started Oak Street in 2010, you know, recession time, and it didn't matter, but American-made was a thing. I mean, you guys probably remember, because we're all like about the same age, like the blogs back then, and like this fascination with Made in USA. And then, you know, we were selling a lot to Japan when we first started, and that completely went away because sneakers really took over, and now it's starting to come back. So yeah, there definitely are cycles.
We are all old enough now to have, for better or for worse, to start to see have some experience with these cycles.
Yeah.
I think I think it's a much longer cycle than like, maybe on a smaller scale, a decade's about right.
Yeah.
But I wonder if I think you're going to start to see non-American made stuff become very expensive also. So it will be more incentive for people to make stuff domestically.
Yeah.
And speaking of making domestically, you're talking about hand sewing. I've seen that you started to do some hand lasting.
Yeah.
What can you tell me what, I guess I don't really understand what is hand lasting, what's special. Is it special? Tell me some info.
Yeah. So a lasting machine, what it does is it basically has like all these fingers that grab the upper and pull it, last it to the form. And you can dial that in. So, you know, you can dial in the tension and, you know, how it's going to pull it in. And we do this now for all of our Goodyear welts. They're all hand lasted. And the reason why we chose to go with hand lasting is because of you can dial it in again much better if you're doing it by hand. Every hide has, you know, we know how every piece of leather will stretch differently. You can't do that when you're using a lasting machine. It can't tell, you know.
How does the lasting machine work? Is it measuring a pressure or some sort of force, or it's just pulling a certain length? How does it work?
Yeah, it's the latter. It's pulling Yeah, it's pulling repeatedly the exact same amount.
Okay.
So it isn't like dynamic. It's not adjusting based on stretch. So you can and do get a difference between like the right foot and left foot if you have differences in the leather. But when you're hand lasting, like a hand that's been doing this for a long time can feel exactly where it should be lasted. So it's just, it's harder to do. It takes a lot longer. I mean, a lasting machine lasts a shoe literally in 10 seconds. You pop it in the machine, it lasts it holds it there for a few seconds and then ejects it back. Hand lasting takes many minutes per half pair. But you get a better fit. You're going to get better consistency. The nuances of each vamp are going to be noticed by the person who's hand lasting. So it's more special. Is it like necessary? I think most brands would say no. But it's something that we've committed to since, I don't know, maybe 3-4 years ago. We moved all our Goodyear welts to hand lasting. And I think overwhelmingly the level of our craftsmanship has gone up and people have noticed it.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's better. I mean, it's better, like you said, for consistency for the finished product.
Yeah.
Is that the lasting machine will pull as hard as you tell it to. It doesn't matter if the shoe explodes.
Right.
It'll still keep pulling. So there are certain products that take so much better to that hand lasting approach. Yeah, I mean, and like you said, I mean, some things need to be stretched a little bit more, a little bit less, and you get a much more consistent.
Yeah.
Did you do any shell cordovan stuff?
So we've been saving up our shell. We do have shell cordovan, Horween shell cordovan, and we're gonna release something special.
Nice.
So I remember the conversation with Skip, and we came up with some ideas. And, he explained, and, we know that there is not an infinite supply of shell. So, he's been pulling away a little bit for us, and we've been getting deliveries every few months. And, we're overdue. We have a lot of shell right now.
Oh, good. I bring it up because I was wondering with the lasting conversation.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I'd imagine that's a lot more, Nick is nodding yes, that is more difficult to last.
No, it's better. It's better.
It's easier to last?
Well, I don't know if it's easier to last, but it's better because one of the main issues, I mean, with shell in the manufacturing process is it's not that strong. So it's susceptible to breakage, to like popping in the toe. So hand lasting will actually probably, I mean, I guess there's a crossover point, but you'll save on, because you could sort of have to like build in, we're going to break 2% of our shoes. I mean, that's like what someone like Allen Edmonds would do. Like, we're just going to break a certain number of shoes, and like we're just going to have to deal with that because we're using this kind of equipment and the leather is this way. So it's better. It's much better.
I've seen some hand lasted shoes that they look great, but if you look real close, like sometimes you can see where it was not pulled like completely. Like if a toe is round, you can see like a little bit of waviness in it. And is that something that you would expect is going to happen from time to time, just given the nature of hand? I'm never hand lasted or...
No, not at all.
It should be straight and smooth all the time.
Yeah, I mean, you're pulling very hard to the last, and the longer you keep... I mean, I think what you might have seen is not a result of hand lasting. Maybe it's just not keeping the shoe on the last long enough.
Okay.
So different manufacturers keep the leather, the shoe on the last for a long time. The longer, the better. Skip was telling me about a factory he went to. I think it might have been in Spain, that I think they do something crazy, like keep it on the wood for like a month. And like, that's crazy because you have to have enough lasts, like to be able to have them tied up for that long. And so that's not the norm. But like from from beginning to end, shoes do take like 8 weeks, to get finished, from cutting, to packaging, sometimes more. So they're on the wood for a long time, but hand lasting, I don't think you're going to see issues like that.
You shouldn't. Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I should have qualified me just like generalizing and say it's better. Was maybe a little too.
It's better.
When it's done correctly, I think the product is more consistent and is generally better.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that using a lasting machine is bad either. I mean, because there are certain applications where I think that you can probably get a more consistent product using that, but not on your product, not on your type of product.
Yeah.
So I don't want to disqualify like tried and true
Both
methods.
Of course,
massively successful. I got it.
I was really surprised that the lasting machine doesn't have some sort of pressure setting, like somebody ought to do that, because then it would, you just do your hand lasting faster, right?
Right, yeah.
Although I guess you would have to, each piece is a little different, so you wouldn't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can, and you do, when you use the lasting machine, when you switch leathers, you absolutely have to adjust it. But it's not able to read each individual vamp.
I got you. That makes sense too.
There's heat and steam and I mean, there are moisture. There's a bunch of, what is the last plastic or fiberglass or wood, or, I mean, there's a lot of. Making shoes isn't easy, I guess is what I'm saying.
No.
I'm always surprised, Nick, how much like you guys know at Horween about footwear. Like I'm always so surprised, because other tanneries don't necessarily like know about the shoemaking aspect. Why is it that or how is it that you guys, is it that most of your customers are in footwear, or a lot of customers are in footwear? How do you guys know so much?
I was always just like taught, like you should just know as much as possible about the end product, because it allows you to make a better product if you have like a more comprehensive idea of what's going on. I mean, that's from the tanning process. In the tanning process, from like when the hides come in to as when we're selling them by the foot, to like to know as much about that process as possible, so that you can make changes to make things better, or diagnose if there's any challenges. And then to a certain extent, we try to carry that forward into the finished product too. And I think that my dad and John know a lot.
Oh yeah,
I think I know.
They're also fans, man.
Yeah.
Like they love the.
Yeah, that's true. That's part of it. And I know some, but it's useful. I mean, especially like if someone's having an issue or something, or if they're looking for a product, and you just sell them a product not knowing if it's going to work. Yeah. I mean, I don't even know how you do that.
Right.
I mean, I guess you just say, this is good for shoes because someone told me it's good for shoes, so that's the way I'm going to sell it. Like, I just think it's important. It's important to know. And it's important to me. I mean, maybe that for us, that harkens back to the sporting goods stuff, because it's so important to know about performance in that segment of the business, because if you don't, then the product won't be adopted, won't be accepted, and can't maintain its place in the stadium or wherever it's going to be used. So it's I don't know.
Yeah, working with Horween is like, it's different in that way. In that, like, at Linea Pelle, some people probably just go looking for a leather that looks nice, but when you go to the Horween booth, which is also shared with CF Stead, which is like the best, it's like they're both right there. John is there, John Colleton, and he knows exactly what the finished product will be. And so when we're talking to John or CF Stead, like they know what to like possibly not recommend, or what they know what we make, and will show us things that they think I might like. I mean, it's a huge advantage that you guys probably don't really intentionally, I guess. It's not totally intentional, but it's great.
It's a little selfish because we want to sell something that's going to have the greatest chance of success, because we want to make and sell a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So there is a selfish component there. But yeah, it's important. Yeah, it's fun. That show is fun, and sharing a booth with Stead is fun, because like they do suedes and we do grains.
Yeah,
it's like we have an overlapping customer list and a non-competing product. So it's like, why wouldn't we share a booth with this great suede maker from the UK?
Did you like going to those shows?
Yeah.
Why don't you go? Family and stuff?
It's just family stuff, yeah.
And I mean, it's tough to go.
And it's been, I mean, I gather that this last round was quite busy.
Yeah.
But it's been not super busy, or at least it wasn't for a few shows. But I'm planning to go in the fall.
Nice,
because I haven't been in a while, and also they set up all the like manufacturing machinery exhibit, which is impressive. And I don't know, just to see massive like embossing presses and spray booths, and like I just have like set that all up in a exhibition halls. Must be so much work, but it's fun. It's fun to walk through.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to know something about boat shoes. Because I think it was the last time you and I got together, I picked up a pair from you for the Patina Thunderdome.
Of boat shoes?
No, I'm sorry. The last time I met up with you, I was picking up a pair for the Thunderdome, and we got to talking about boat shoes. And you told me, like, man, I could sell more boat shoes. Which is nobody to make them. And Skip had this sort of cyclical observation in an episode we did with him. He was talking about, he said that that's very interesting. When we mentioned that to him, he says, that means that things are picking back up as far as like made in America. He thinks that boat shoes are the like cornerstone of American interest of American footwear. So what's the story with boat shoes right now? You've seen a lot of boat shoes being ordered?
I sort of agree, but it's camp mocks. So for us, camp mocks are like the quintessential made in USA. And I think it's because, there's a lot of boat shoe competition, not made in USA. Sperry has a name, for a reason. So for us, it is camp mocks, and we cannot make enough camp mocks. They're among our top best-selling products across boots and shoes. And there's definitely an uptick. So yeah, I think it's definitely coming back. We have gotten ahead of it. We were basically out of camp mocks for a year, like all of last year. It was nearly impossible for people to get camp mocks. We did have like a list, and when we would get camp mocks in, we would email people and they would instantly buy them. So shoes were never making it to the website. As of, I don't know, the past like 30 to 60 days, we have inventory again. Until maybe people hear this. But
I think you might be overestimating our... Right. So can you give me...
Yeah.
Can you just explain the distinction between a boat shoe and a camp mock?
Yes. So a camp mock is a slip on. There's no lace closure, but there is a decorative lace that goes around the foot. You tie it in a bow on the top, but it's a slip on, and you can use that bow to tighten the shoe. And a boat shoe has two eyelets, and it's what we all wore at some point. We've all had a boat shoe. So 2-eye, and then there's what we call a trail Oxford or Ranger mock. That's 4-eye. And so, yeah, it's funny. A camp mock, if you look at it, like, I mean, I use the word bow. There is like a little bow on top.
It's cute. It's adorable.
And I think a lot of people are kind of like, I don't know, think it's like not tough enough until you wear it. And then it's just so comfortable. You don't ever have to tie it because it is a slide on. I mean, it's what I wear, most of the year until winter comes around. Like if I remember we filmed something at like Oak Street HQ, and almost certainly I was wearing Camp Mocks. You might have had on those like Trail Oxfords.
I brought in. So did you start in 2010?
Yeah.
I bought a pair in 2010.
Yeah.
And they're Ranger Mocks, I believe.
Yep.
In brown chrome excel.
Yep.
They were even old enough that I can prove to you they're authentic because you were gluing like a leather patch onto the outsole, like in the center.
Yep.
Sort of like where the shank would be.
Right.
Yeah. So I had this like authentic 2010, like probably like first or second run you ever did.
Right. Yeah.
And man, I wore the hell out of those things. They were honestly probably too small for me because my foot was like way over the outsole. Like I was
me too
pooching it, but honestly, like I don't care. They look like a little weird, like they're a little wide looking because of how I've worn them and like they've spread out, but they're so comfortable.
Yeah.
They're like wearing socks.
Yeah. You know? We definitely urged people maybe a little too much, like in the early days, to size down to account for like Chrome Excel stretch. So I've since like started sizing up just like for a little bit more comfort.
For you personally or for
me personally and on the site, we've adjusted our sizing recommendations. But yeah, Chrome Excel is like just so forgiving. I mean, yours were too small.
On an online shoe, I don't see something more I can't imagine a leather that's more comfortable.
Yeah. It's I mean, it's Chrome Excel in Handsewn's. Like there's just no better leather, you know.
So what do you think it is that's making it come back a little bit? I don't know, or is it?
It definitely is. I don't know. You know, we brought up cost. They're very expensive, so that's like
what's the price of
a deterrent? I think they're $286. Sounds, I think, like where it is, or maybe $296.
Why do you struggle with that? Is it changing a lot? The price?
No, our catalog is pretty darn big.
Gotcha.
I used to know like all the prices, and then we keep on releasing new things. You know, if anything, our prices are, I mean, they're definitely too low. We have not adjusted, and everything has seen increases. So labor is more expensive. Leather has gotten a little bit more expensive.
Right here.
Damn,
you know,
tanners, stingy, late, expensive tanners.
Right. Yeah, you know, late deliveries. We've like Horween treats us like really nicely. So there was a long period of time where deliveries were taking, you know, in excess of 3 months, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. But
it's not okay.
Yeah, we've fortunately, you know, John and Dan at Horween were always able to find, like, you know, if there was a little overrun for another customer, you know, they were able to send us some sides to like keep things going. But, you know, on that note, we also had to, that's why we started using some other tanneries, just because, you know, it's our livelihood, you know, like for all of us, this is how, like, you know, there's a roof over our heads and, you know, we have kids. And so we started using some other leathers. I mentioned the Tempesti. We used Badalassi for the first time last year. So, you know, it's, I feel like we've always been like really well cared for. I think there's, you know, there is a relationship component. But yeah, we started playing around with other leathers and have had a lot of success with those too. And I think it makes us better shoemakers, like working with different materials. There's always a learning process. But like when it comes back to it, you know, we started with only Chrome Excel. Literally, we only had Chrome Excel shoes. So like I have this like, you know, forever love with that leather because it was the only thing we used for years. Like, I mean, even now, if you go on the Oak Street website, just looking at Chrome Excel in different colors. So yeah, and some like Orion, but it's generally been, you know.
Are you doing the Orion for a suede or the grain side?
Yeah.
Both.
So, you know, it's a waterproof suede essentially. So we have done like navy, Orion, Trail Oxfords with a red brick sole forever. And like that's a shoe that'll dye your foot blue or your socks blue. I remember getting a text message of a friend. He like sent me a picture of his feet and they were blue. And he was like, what the fuck, that. He was like, what is this? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's it. It's going to crock. It's going to like bleed onto your feet for, whatever, a little time. It's the same thing we did like struck through black chrome excel, and it would, come off on people's socks. And we did indigo boots. Those, that like really got all over your feet. Yeah. Because that was rough out chrome excel. So imagine like the smooth side of chrome excel is touching your foot. That's not absorbing like the indigo very much. So like the inside of the boot was blue for, when you would put your sock in there, and then like you just pull your sock out and just like pulling all that indigo right off.
Forever and ever.
Yeah.
And ever.
Yeah. It doesn't really stop.
That's good though.
Yeah.
You were saying that Camp Mocks are one of your best sellers.
Yeah.
What do you got that's a bestseller right now? Because I'm curious. The reason I'm interested, number one, it's kind of interesting just in general, but I see like, and you just said you have so much different stuff.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if people are leaning more towards style or more towards comfort, like aesthetic choices that people are making, or more of like for comfort. Because for me, like a boat shoe, Camp Mock, Ranger Mock, can't be the comfort. Also, like on a boot, a leather outsole is very comfortable for me. But I'm wondering if are people choosing based on style and.
Well, to answer the first part of your question, our bestseller always is the natural day and night trench boot.
Day and night.
So the trench boot has been the bestseller literally since it came out in like 2012. The trench boot is why I started Oak Street Bootmakers. It's like, it's that story you've heard a million times. Like I was looking for something, didn't exist, figured out a way to make it. And then when we came out with it, it was a game changer as a company, because we suddenly weren't only Handsewns. We now had a Goodyear welted boot. So the trench boot is number one. And I think number two right behind it is the Camp Mock and the Beef Roll Penny Loafer. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Now numbers are starting to get kind of closer, like the Lakeshore boot. Our field boot, which is like that World War II boondocker style, in the past 2 years, like that's growing like crazy, and we just redesigned it. But natural day and night trench boot, like that's generally what I wear in the winter.
Pretty surprising to me. I like the day and night too. I have some stuff, but man, the leather sole.
Yes.
And I don't know if you want to divulge what's material you're using for your outsoles, but I've noticed in my personal experience with your outsoles, they tend to be a little bit thinner and less firm than some other leather outsoles that I've worn. Yeah. Do you want to tell me what you're using, or is that too deep?
Well, we go back and forth. So sometimes we use like a traditional leather outsole, but oftentimes we use it's like referred to as a waterlock outsole. Like that's what I wear when I wear our leather soled boots, and it's just soaked in oil and helps with the water resistance, helps with the flex, and it's interesting. I think like what you're suggesting is that it's not like super firm and it will flex.
Correct.
And that's an interesting comment, because that's not just the sole. So we were, when I was in Italy, I had a conversation with the manufacturer of the rib and of the welting. And so the rib has a very big impact on the amount of flex. So there are, there's the Alden Flex Welt Chukka. It's called Flex Welt. My suspicion is that it's a flexible rib. because the conversations that I had with, with the manufacturer of the ribbing and the welting, because I do like a flexible shoe, and our ribbing material is a little bit more flexible than what's traditionally ordered.
Can you give me? I'm just because some people might not know as much about shoe construction as we do. So can you just give me a breakdown of the interface between the welt and the rib and the midsole?
Yeah. So the midsole is what the rib is attached to, and the rib essentially kind of creates two things. It creates like a cavity on the inside, the middle of the midsole, that you then put the shank and fill the rest with cork. But then it also creates a flat area for the welt to attach to. So then the entire bottom of the shoe is now flat. So the rib sticks up from the midsole. The midsole's a flat piece of leather. So it sticks up, and then you attach the welt to that. So then now you have a flat surface. And so the rib goes all the way around the shoe, and it's rigid. And so if that's super rigid, even if you have like a flexible leather sole, like you're not going to get the flex that makes a shoe comfortable.
Okay. So I guess,
there's a lot of ins and outs of like tiny details that people would never.
Well, yeah, I always assumed I was like, man, this outsole that George is using is crazy comfortable compared to some others that I've worn.
Yeah.
And I was thinking it was just the outsole, so maybe it's more. But I also think it's something with the outsole.
Oh, for sure.
And I suppose the counterbalance to that is they wore through pretty quick. I wore through them. I was wearing them every day.
Yeah.
I was 6 months. They were holes.
Wow. You wore them hard.
Wore them really hard. It was the Thunderdome thing, right? So they're like, you're supposed to wear these every day. Yeah. Or I guess you're not, but I did.
Yeah, we weren't drying out.
Yeah,
enough.
we tell people like they need to dry out, otherwise you're going to wear through those soles.
Yeah,
and it's not good for the uppers either, obviously.
So how often should you be rotating?
Well, I do what you do. Yeah. I get into a pair and I wear them nonstop. So we have a new, we redesigned the camp boot, and like that's what I wore today. I wore it every day at Linea Pelle. So I get into one shoe, and then in the same thing in the spring, I'll start wearing camp mocks, and they won't come off until sometime in the fall. So like I'll wear camp mocks without socks for months, and then fall comes around and I put on like socks with my camp mocks until like the first snow.
Yep.
Yeah.
So have you heard of this Rosanville guy before? Have you ever been on his channel? Have any of your stuff cut in half?
and shockingly, I have not watched much.
You're not a YouTube guy, right?
I'm not.
That's good.
Of course, I watched part of the indie boot. I don't know. It's not really a review. The indie boot dissection,
autopsy.
Yeah. So I watched part of that, and that was.
You need more coffee?
Oh, is there any left?
Yeah. I brought down the whole pot.
Oh,
I thought it was right next to you. Sorry, I was trying to be discreet.
Well,
not interrupt the entire conversation for
Phil. I'd love to have some if there's any left.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
we'll take care of George first.
Yeah,
make sure his cup is full.
Nick hit me in the side. Hey, give me some coffee.
Liver punch.
I interrupt, or Nick and I interrupted your answer, but
sorry.
The reason I was asking about the Rosanville thing is I want to know what your thoughts are on leatherboard. Because I think that was a lot, that's become a really big thing in the zeitgeist of this boot world right now.
Yeah, my guess, I hate to even call it a guess, but my assumption is Alden makes it that way for a reason. Mm-hmm. And I would also assume that it's been like that for a long time.
I can confirm that both of those are correct.
Okay. Yeah, so there's it just pained me to see some of those comments because I know that it like has nothing to do with cost cutting. Like there was a period of time where like we used fiberglass shanks for a little while, and like fiberglass shanks literally cost more than steel shanks. And we would get comments like, "Oh, it's a fiberglass shank, like total cost cutting." And it's like, no, it's not cost cutting at all. It's not gonna. It's not. It'll forever remain that way. It won't squeak. So there's like, I used it again because of my background with shoe repair. Seeing things that happen, and so when we started making trench boots, I knew that the workaround to squeak and the workaround to like a shank getting bent is fiberglass. Costs a little bit more, but yeah, what pained me was seeing the comments about, like leatherboard and assuming it's cost cutting. Most American manufacturers are not looking to save, whatever the difference is, like 60 cents, in these materials. Like it's an expensive shoe. Either way, there's a reason behind, each component that they use. There's a reason why, Oak Street does everything the way we do. And cost cutting is never, part of it.
When you're talking about, I guess I assume I know what the shank is, but what's the performance function that a shank does?
So you have that like gap between the heel and the ball of your foot that's floating essentially. And so a shank prevents that from ever like collapsing from the weight of your body on it.
So why would people be mad about a different material choice there?
Because steel is traditional.
Okay.
Like, some manufacturers use wood shanks. And I mean, there's also manufacturers in China that use bamboo shanks, which are just hand shaved down, which is pretty cool. And so we've since gone back to steel shanks, just because it's, like we listen to the customer. If they want steel shanks, sure.
Have it.
Yeah. Have it. And we get to save, whatever, 8 cents a shank. And
now you have to take your shoes off at the airport. You're
that's
welcome.
That's the other thing. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Well, you still have to anyway, but I guess if you have a TSA pre or something, they're coming off anyway now.
Right. Yeah.
So you might as well not.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean,
the one of the like, I don't know, another example of that is our boat shoe forever did not have a wraparound lace. It had a wraparound, but it was completely a separate piece of leather from the shoelace. So the wraparound was decorative. And the reason for that was because at my dad's shoe repair, my mom also works there, and my parents are both still working. So my mom would repair. If you break your shoelace on a boat shoe, you have to wrap it all the way around. It's very difficult. You are not going to do it at home. Like you have to either throw out the boat shoes or go to the manufacturer or find a shoe repair willing to do it. And so my mom would always do the repair on people's broken shoelace boat shoes. And it seemed like such an avoidable repair. So what we did was where the wraparound would begin, we would sew it, wrap it all the way around to the other side, sew it. You have a closed loop that will never be used, and then a separate lace for the two eyelets. And I thought this was like genius.
People are so upset.
People were so upset. And so we went to a traditional way of doing it.
I keep finding it continuously interesting how the internet is like the great unveiler of all information.
And right? I bet nobody may be too general, but do you think any of your customers that have bought your boat shoes have actually used that lace in the intended way?
No.
No. Because you're supposed to be able to tighten the whole collar of the shoe to keep the water out of your shoe.
Yeah. My assumption is most people keep it tied
and never untie it.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I am with it.
Me too. I'm not. I don't do a lot of sailing though. So
right.
maybe if I was more of a yachtsman,
there's this like
be more discerning.
There's this like main hand sewer like saying that if you can't make a boat shoe fit, then you can't make anything fit. And like they, guys in Maine say this, and they like think it's the cutest, funniest thing ever. And it just means that like you've got a lot of give to be able to tighten that shoe with that wraparound lace. Unless you have early Oak Streets, you can't tighten it.
Well, that's sort of like the extent of the hard-hitting questions I had for you, George.
Ooh.
Did it sting you?
Mm-mm.
So, because I'll tell you the process. I'll go online and like read what people are saying. I think that's why the podcast is kind of interesting, and it's good that you're here, is because like, I bet if people would, instead of just like writing a thing, like assuming, like a leatherboard example on the Rose Anvil, which I don't know if he assumed, like he made like a sort of like a second step and like concluded something.
Yeah.
But just like I bet you Alden would, if you called the retail store that you bought it from, I bet you they would tell you some information.
I see it both ways. So Weston is like this composite leather, bond leather board, whatever you want to call it. That's not real leather. It's not as good. And like it's an understandable but misguided assumption, I think.
Yeah.
And then in talking to Alden, because this thing has come up so much, it's insane.
Yeah, we gotta stop.
It's crazy to me. It's like we've done that for more than 50 years, and we do that because it's more water resistant, and we use it. I said this once before. So if it's a non-leather outsole, they use the composite leather, the bonded leather, because it doesn't absorb moisture, so that it cuts down on the incidence of dry rot in the shoe, because it's not the inside of the shoe doesn't get as moist.
Yeah.
But if there's a leather outsole, then they use full leather everything because it breathes better. But nobody seems to pay attention to the fact that that shoe used to be lined with that cotton, that woven cotton, and now it's lined with like a full leather lining, which is much more expensive.
Yeah.
I guess easier through manufacturing.
You have the cotton one, right?
I do.
Do you like that?
Really? Cotton? When is it from?
They started doing it in like early 2000s. That's
when the switch happened? Wow.
Mid 2000s?
Probably.
Like 20.
I think it was my first pair of Aldens.
Wow.
So, now I was 19, so 20 years ago.
Well, they switched away from that in like, don't quote it, but 2008. They switched to.
These would have been like 03.
Wow.
2, 3, 4.
I remember you biking over to my house in the city here with those, and then I tried to do it with like 1,000-mile boots, and I fell on my face because there's no traction on those leather bottoms, at least on
that neocork.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
I don't know. What are you feeling like you wish people knew about Oak Street that they don't know? Because it's like, for me, like I wish people knew a lot of things about how hard it is to like make in my world, wallets and belts. Like there are certain little things it's like, man, if you only knew. Like when you get these emails or like somebody complaining about something, like what do you wish these people knew about what it is that you guys do?
Yeah, I mean, we, just like you, like we really care about all of these shoes that go out the door. Like we spend, I mean, our entire life is trying to make this like excellent product, make it in America, use incredible materials. Yeah, I mean, I guess there's nothing that I wish everyone knew about Oak Street, but we're making a dent, and like we're definitely successful with our mission. But yeah, it's an incredible product. We use the best materials in the world, and you're gonna wear them for a really, really long time.
Yeah, and I've had one since the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, they're falling apart though. I mean, I like straight up abused them. So.
Send them to George's mom and she'll put new laces.
Right.
Yeah. I'm gonna design a boot for you or a shoe. I'm sure people come to you. Do you do like made to order type stuff?
No, we used to. We've gotten, fortunately, like we've gotten to the point where we're too big to be able to do one-offs.
Is that good or bad? You like that?
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's good because we're keeping the factories busy. We're getting more shoes out there. It's quality control is like never an issue with our growth because it's been so slow and steady. So yeah, it's definitely good.
And in terms of the business model, are you all direct to consumer, or are you doing some wholesale too?
So we've always done wholesale. It used to be a bigger part of what we did. There was a company in Chicago called Trunk Club that was huge, and that was great. It was wholesale for us, but it was great because it was introducing people who would have never come across Oak Street. It was getting them into Oak Streets, and that's why we've maintained to doing wholesale. Like we've got a handful. I mean, it's more than a handful of great U.S. Of great retailers who will come up with like really unique ideas. So like we do exclusives for retailers. Like there's a shop in California called Butterscotch, and the owner, his name is Tommy, and Tommy just comes up with ideas for. He'll take the basic concept, trench boot or trench Oxford, and he'll make it totally unique. Like he did, he does this, like, I think he calls it, I don't know, like the trench Oxford low or something, but it's Black Chrome XL, T-Core.
T-Core.
He does a dark brown welt with a black Vibram Christie. Like, that may sound like simple or something you don't think about. It looks great. I would have never done that. Like, never come up with that idea. And it's a total grand slam. Like, he orders it throughout the year, always sells out right away. So our retailers, whatever, there's a couple dozen probably, have like really unique Oak Streets. And actually, we have a retailer somewhere in Asia, and you can find it, like, if you look, he's got, I think, natural shell cordovan jump boots, which is like our Lakeshore boot, and color 8. And he quietly orders these, and it's great. They're out there. And we're like, if you just like Instagram those, like you can like just totally go through them right away. But he's got it's like a clientele thing. He's got like a core clientele, and they're for his core customers.
It must be pretty hard though, just selling direct, just in terms of like getting the right fit for people. I guess you have the store independence, which, by the way, the new store is looking great.
Thank you.
And the guys working there, I thought they were really nice too.
Yeah.
But fit must be such a nightmare if you're I'm looking at your store on Nick's iPad right now.
Yeah. Fit is tough. If you're buying shoes online, you have to be prepared to possibly exchange them. Haley, who is our director of
Haley's
operations,
great, by the way. Shout out to Haley.
Is amazing and helps people day in and day out with sizing. So, if you know what fits you well, and if you can get on a Brannick, she can help you get into a good size. But yeah, exchanges are going to be a part of it. They always will be. People who are traveling to Chicago, or live in Chicago, definitely often stop by Independence, get fitted there.
It's a good store too. The clothes and stuff there are really neat.
Yeah.
So I mean, for sizing and stuff, you recommend people just don't be shy and hey, if you don't know what size you are, just email us or call or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, we spend a ton of time on sizing every single day. And it's important. You wore the wrong size and loved them.
Yeah. You know what's crazy, man, is I have, I don't know if you guys have the same experience, but like in Alden, for example, and in your brand, I have many different sizes and widths.
Yeah.
And they all kind of work.
So this is what's crazy is how much the pattern affects the size. We have, we had a wingtip, and it was on our lakeshore last. So, but everyone, including myself, sized down a half size on the this short wingtip, but it is the same length as, like, you know, the 9 wingtip is still however many centimeters long it is, but the way the pattern was constructed, it just, everyone felt better in a half size down. Yeah, so patterns have a big effect on it. I wonder if, like, with you, it's probably like last and leathers might be different.
Yeah, it's I guess for me is like I must be what's the term, masochistic, where like you're cool with a little bit of pain at first.
Yeah,
which I kind of was. So the one I'm thinking of specifically, in the Alden Indie boot, I'm like a 9.5 triple wide.
Okay,
but so I have that, and there's something about the proportions between the triple E and the size that in that design, it looks stupid.
It's not going to look as good. Yeah,
the indie boot I have.
Tell us how you really feel.
Right.
I'm mad at it. So I'm mad because they're so comfortable, and I like the leather, and I liked them enough. I wore through that Neocork sole, which to my knowledge, I'm the only person that's ever worn through one.
Yeah, I mean, wearing through a leather sole in 6 months is more or less unheard
Well, I was wearing
of.
them every day at the tannery, which is a pretty harsh environment.
In the winter in Chicago.
Yeah. So,
I wonder why they...
So, anyways, I loved them, but they looked dumb. They weren't very, like, stylish. So I also have a 10D, which look amazing.
Yeah.
But I am...
you go over the edge of the welt.
I go over the welt.
Yeah.
Which, like, I don't really care. I'm sure, like, somebody listening here would see my feet and be like, "You're an idiot." But, like, I like them, and I think they feel comfortable. So, and it's probably because in that example, it is chrome excel, to your point.
Yeah, and you know, sizing's tough because there's also, like, personal preference. You know, like, you prefer the D because it looks better, and you know that, like, it's gonna stretch. So
it's too bad we didn't catch that look on camera here. I just looked at Nick when he said I preferred the D, and I went, no, it looks better. The pattern is it's the last, right?
I think that I mean, maybe I pay attention to the wrong part of the shoe, but I look at the laces a lot too.
Oh yeah,
because if the shoe is a little bit too narrow, but the laces are laying the right way, like you can actually close the shoe enough that it looks like it's supposed to look.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like the laces are like barely hanging. Like if you have a bow, like if you tie your shoes and the bow is like teeny tiny, like your shoes are too narrow.
Yeah.
Like you need, because you need more leather to close around your foot.
Speaking of laces, you were the first guy to get me to do the wraparound lace.
Oh, on a trench?
Yes. And you told me that's your preferred lacing.
Yeah. So our
it's a little faster than the you hate speed hooks. Let's get it. We got to talk about speed hooks. And
yeah, I'm not a fan of speed hooks or a donning loop, a pull tab in the back. I hate pull tabs. And we have a customer who emails us from different email addresses. So he creates a unique email address all the time, and he's very mad that we don't have any pull tabs. And he's a customer because he references, like, you know, the pairs he has, but he creates new email addresses to send us, like, you know, jabs of like,
they're like, look how many people want this tab.
Yeah.
So
this makes me sad.
But
why don't you like it?
What we were saddened by was our camp boot does have a pull tab. It was out of stock for over a year, and we want to email him and say, hey, we've got a pull tab, but we don't know what his real email address is. So if you're out there, we have a pull tab now.
You've done this to yourself.
So I don't like pull tabs because your jeans get hung up on them in the back.
Okay.
And it just doesn't look good. But you can get your boot on easier. So it's like, what do you prefer? So we do pull tabs. We just don't do them frequently. We don't have a pull tab on the trench boot. So yeah, it's a little tough to like get on. It's just like a non-issue to me. You like loosen the boot up and you pull it on. And then
hooks.
Hooks, kind of similar. Your jeans can get, I don't wear skinny jeans. I mean, I'm wearing I think it's like the 1937 LVC, super wide. But they can get hung up on they're called speed hooks. Are you really saving much time, speed, I don't know.
Yeah.
So we have speed hooks on, I think all of our lake shores have speed hooks standard. And then some of our trench boots do, but it's just like personal preference. Some people love them. So we offer them both ways.
The taller the boot, the more it makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But we, on our trench boot, we only do 2 speed hooks. We did, I think it was our Battle Lassie, lakeshore boot had the most speed hooks we've ever done. I think it was it might have been 4 eyelets and 4 speed hooks.
Oh, wow.
So it was halfway. And yeah, those people are saving a lot of time lacing up their boots.
You hate them. I liked, there's something about that process, that just the habit of, you get up in the morning, you do your stuff, and you get ready to go, and putting on your boot, wrapping it around. I thought that habit, or that whatever you call it, was satisfying in some way.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the way that you can go really fast with speed hooks? You hold
Nick
both.
does that.
Oh, you do it?
Well, he showed it to me, where you just you can one hand it through the laces.
Through the speed hooks.
I don't know. I don't know. I just do it the way I do it. I don't even know if I pay attention to how I do it.
I wonder if you get that from hockey. Does hockey do something like that?
No.
I'm making things up.
There's no.
You showed me once.
Speed hooks.
We're just
you use one hand
you
with
can grab
both laces.
You probably forget.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
Relevant. Very, very important.
I do have a ton of boots with speed hooks. They don't
really bother me.
Yeah, I think if you get, they're annoying in that they can get bent.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then I think that if they get bent outward, then stuff gets hung up on them. And then if you get a speed hook that's either not quite right or not very nice, it's kind of sharp.
Yeah.
And that. So, but I mean, I guess I don't know. I usually ignore the top one anyway.
Yeah. So with your trench boots, what I probably said was skip the top 2 eyelets.
Yes.
Wrap around.
That's exactly what you said. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. There's I like the way that feels. I like how it kind of, I don't know, locks in your foot. I do it on my camp boots. We don't. So our brand new camp boots come with the appropriate sized lace. And the first thing I did was take out the laces, and I got 72-inch laces. I put our boot laces in them, our cougar laces, which are these fireproof laces.
You pull that up. I do a
What am I pulling up?
For Ashland, I do a live stream now, and people have been shouting you out. It's hey, do you see Oak Street's got this new? I want to see.
Pull it up. What am I pulling up?
Oh, the Cortina camp boot.
Camp boot.
Yeah. Well, we have.
Somebody was really excited about it. I haven't seen it yet.
We did Cortina Trail Oxfords, and later this week we're going to have a Cortina.
Where would
camp
I?
Monk.
Camp boot.
Yep.
That one, the chukka kind of.
Yep.
Kind of look.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we reintroduced that boot.
Is that what you were wearing today?
Yeah. Yeah. So we had that boot when Oak Street launched in 2010. The primary difference. Oh, and if you go to the brown one has a mud guard also.
Yeah.
Do you like how dirty my iPad is? My son was using it. I think it's got jelly.
Is that boogers?
No, I think it's jelly. It's even it's just
This is the one you're wearing today, the brown one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed those.
So
it kind of has that Russell moccasin vibe,
Yeah. Yeah, so we had it in 2010 when we launched, but the difference was we had a white Vibram Christie, and the Vibram Christie, in 2010 was that was as cool as it got.
Yeah.
So it's wild. The reason why Oak Street I think worked in 2010 was we did a Ranger mock. We call it the Trail Oxford with the white Vibram Christie sole and navy Chrome Excel,
the
white
rad.
Vibram Christie. That was it. I mean, day one, like that thing just exploded. And like in layman's terms, it was a boat shoe, which it's not.
Yeah.
It was a boat shoe with a work boot sole. And in 2010, that was just like, like mind blowing.
So that took off though.
That took off. So the camp boot had that same big work sole on it. I didn't like it. I was like, we've had that moment. And so we introduced it with this Italian made Cortina sole, which is it's a lug sole. It's just, it like harkens like, 1990s Ralph Lauren, and it's just so good. I love it.
So is Ralph Lauren inspiration for how you see things in your brand? Or what are your inspirations?
Not with shoes. So I just love traditional American made shoes. Ralph Lauren, I love Ralph Lauren. They do a little bit made in USA with their footwear too, which is awesome. They also, it's just crazy how good their footwear is. They had private label Cordovan short wings from Crockett and Jones forever. They did a boot, Shell Cordovan with Crockett and Jones. Like, just for a brand that's that big, and shoes is not their focus. Their shoes, have historically been very good. And so, yeah, I love Ralph clothing wise. I love Ralph Lauren. There's, when you think of Americana in a non-workwear sense, like he, in my opinion, like does it better than anyone. So yeah, I love Ralph. I wear a lot of it.
Don't they do all the stuff for the Olympics also?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what do you think
in
about
USA
that?
Over the past several years?
Because they had, I think Nick made the leather for the boots that they were doing. This must have been several Olympics
Alan
ago.
Edmonds does the shoes though.
That was the boot. Yeah.
They look like ski boots.
Yeah, that was Alan Edmonds.
Hiking boot. Yeah. I love that.
That was kind of cool, actually.
I remember hearing a story. I don't know if you heard it, Nick, but like I think it was John who told me. Like Ralph had like a vintage, hiking boot, and like, showed it to Alan Edmonds and was like, "This is the inspiration. This is what I want." And then for the leather, he was like, "I want it to look like this," but it was like, a 50-year-old boot that had been worn for decades. And he didn't want it necessarily distressed, is what John said, but he wanted like that color achieved. And apparently there was a lot of back and forth, like trying to get it right.
I think they ended up with Dublin, if I remember.
I think there's also a rough out version.
There's been a couple different. It's been a few different years of a few different times through, but
yeah, like how great is that? Like that they actually used Dublin, like not a cheap leather.
No,
like they did it right.
Oh, to your point about Ralph Lauren, yeah,
good
call.
Like cares, yeah.
Can you give us, since you're on the show here, give our guests or our listeners a special gift?
Okay.
Do you have anything secret coming up soon that you want to tease for us?
Yeah. There's a lot. So when does this air?
We'll be putting this out
or something.
I think at the moment we're actually 2 weeks. So
okay.
2 weeks from yesterday, this will be out.
Yeah. So we have a Cortina soled camp mock coming out.
Nice.
That'll be out very.
Is that the cork filled sole that
is on my camp boots? Yeah. And then we have a CF Stead leather coming out next week. So probably around the time when this podcast goes live, there will be a brand new CF Stead leather lakeshore boot and trench boot. And we have had a long hiatus from CF Stead, maybe, I don't know, less than a year, but that's a decent long hiatus. And then after that, I was able to source these dead stock U.S. Army half soles.
Yes.
Like they're amazing. I mean, they literally say U.S. Army on them, and they weren't dried out. Like they were somehow preserved since World War II.
Dang.
And we're making a massive batch of I think it's 3 styles using these vintage U.S. Army soles. They look incredible, so those will be out.
What are the uppers on that? Or can you tell?
Natural marine field chew, which is natural rough out Chrome Excel.
That's actually pretty close to how they probably were.
Exactly.
Back then. Yeah, that's like the actual
boondocker.
What is it called? I don't know.
Marine field chew, whatever.
Yeah, marine field chew.
Yeah.
It's probably close to what it would have been.
Yeah. When we do twice a year, we do like our version of the reproduction. And we use the same material that the marine field chew was made of. We use a sole that's as close as you can get now. I mean, it's fun. It's not for everyone. Like, I'm so excited for these U.S. Army soles, and like, it's not for everyone, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited.
When you got Cordovan coming, or do you know?
I don't know. We've we have all of our production 100%, like everything, every month of the year has 100% capacity. And we know exactly what's being made each month, which is great for people who are like, you know, when are you going to have, whatever, a size 10 camp mock back? Now we generally know. So we haven't like slated, we haven't made a commitment to where it's going to go. We know that we'll squeeze them in this year.
Nice. All right. Well, you got any other questions for George, Nick? Because I think we should move on to favorites. You've heard the show before we do.
I have.
The favorites. So then I'll have to give you the
I'm pulling a Nick right now. Like I should have known.
What do you mean?
Well, so that's the great thing about somebody like yourself who's really into clothing. Like you could talk about just like something you like, you know. But how about I start?
Sure. I'll do a clothing item today. I got one.
All right.
But you start.
I've been so excited about an old TV show that I've been watching. Like I said, I've been feeling kind of sick. So I was sick and I was just like laying in bed watching show. So what am I going to watch? I started watching The Wire again. And I was like, man, I remember season 4 was so good. Let's put that on again. And I watched that again last week. It's almost 20 years old.
Yeah.
And still like perfect and very like relevant. Like time, like in this moment, everything that they're talking about could still be happening. That's my favorite for this.
How many seasons are there?
They did 5 seasons.
Oh, I've never seen The Wire.
Neither have I.
Oh yeah?
I tried watching episode 1, and I remember me and my wife, like we were in bed watching it and like could not finish that episode.
You have to watch it in the same way you watch Game of Thrones, where like the dialogue is very important, and there's so many like really well written characters, and then the story itself is also very well written, but there are multiple lines of plot happening in separate environments that end up like intersecting for a brief second, and then they kind of stray back away. So it's kind of hard to follow. I could get but honestly, like you won't get the full experience, but if you just start it, and I suggest trying it, just start at season 4. And if you're like, this is awesome, start all the way over.
Oh,
because it's hard. Or go back to season 1, and now that you've seen it once, I remember not getting it the first time I watched it because they just throw you in.
Right.
They don't really like dumb it down for you. Try it again. Season 4 is maybe the best thing I've ever experienced.
Huh. What's the detectives? Is it
McNulty?
Yeah, I watched a few episodes. Oh. So like I knew going in, I watched that show. I'm like, this guy's British.
Yeah,
that's not.
Oh, really?
So it really took me out of it. It was just like such a silly thing because like everybody uses a different accent when they're acting, but it like really took me out of it because that guy's like a proper like British gentleman. He's got like this Baltimore thick accent that he throws on. He's great, but yeah.
It feels pretty authentic.
Yeah.
I think he does a nice job.
If you didn't know, I probably just ruined. If you haven't seen it, I just ruined it. I just ruined it for you, George. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. The Wire is great, man. I highly recommend it.
Well, I'll do a show too because, I've got 2 very little kids, as you do, and it's tough to like find any time to watch TV. So on my flight to Milan for Linea Pelle and the flight back, I nearly watched 3 seasons of a show called Crashing from HBO. My barber like recommended it. He was like, it's from, I don't know, 2017, 18, 19 or something like that. And
I'm writing it down.
Yeah, it's very good. It's a comedy. It's about a wannabe comedian who like has a chance encounter in episode 1 with Artie Lang, who, if you don't know Artie Lang, he's a comic. And, the main character is a nobody, has this chance encounter with Artie Lang, and then it kind of like propels all the following, seasons. And then, I'm not spoiling anything. He gets better at being a comic.
Is that Pete Holmes in that?
That's the one.
I saw a couple. It's funny.
Yeah.
Artie Lang is really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. He's great.
Dirty Work. Go back and watch Dirty Work.
I recall him.
Oh, yeah.
And Norm Macdonald.
Yeah.
Norm Macdonald.
Yeah.
The late, great Norm Macdonald. I've brought him up before.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite?
Well, I'll do a show. I've been watching, but I'll do something else. So I've got, been watching The Last of Us.
Speaking of British actors, the girl
was
super British. Or non-American.
Yes. Yeah. No, she. And for some reason, that doesn't bother me.
Yeah, it does a great.
Where is that show?
It's HBO.
Okay.
It's based on
That's a great.
Huh. All right.
It's not done. It's still on. It's not the first season's still going. But I don't know. It checks all the boxes for me. It's like,
what's the genre?
It's like a post-apocalyptic, but like atypical.
It needs a
zombie
disclaimer.
Thing.
It's a zombie show, but it's not about zombies at all. It's about
no, it's not. Like there is an episode with no zombies in it. That's a good episode too.
It's really good.
Anyway, so that's good. But I also got recently
really good,
and I haven't worn them yet, but I got a couple pairs of pants from Freenote.
Yeah,
they have like one of them is like this heavier Japanese like duck cotton, and they're like more relaxed, and they're that mild blend right now getting hemmed. So I'm looking forward to picking them up. But those I think that those like. It's like a slubby. They say it's black, but it's like a dark charcoal. It's like a slubby. Like, I'm looking forward to wearing those. I think those will be a favorite.
All right, future favorites for Nick.
Yeah.
I never have any, and then I just burn 2.
Good job today, guys. I really appreciate you coming down, George.
Absolutely.
It's always great to see you. And you got anything else to say, Nick? Should we just shout out? Oh, let's shout out where do you prefer people find you? Just go to your website? Or do you do like a lot of Instagram and stuff?
Yeah, we're on Instagram too. Website and Instagram.
So oakstreetbootmaker.com or what's the bootmakers.com.
Oh,
nice.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was looking on your site sort of as we were talking. And I think that like the Trail Oxford in Chrome Excel
that's
for
what I have.
$286 is like a pretty good. Like people should buy that because your prices should be higher.
Yeah.
Like just based on.
I don't think we have any, to be honest.
And that's the one that I loved. Right. That was my favorite
7.5.
Yeah, those are in production now.
Okay.
So we'll have them probably in I don't know.
Well, anyway, check the site because I just think that I mean, it's a shoe that I like.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, and I just think that it's
at that price,
it's very
amazing.
It's like a quintessentially American silhouette, and I just like it.
Yeah, that's the one that you have in brown.
Oh man,
it's a good shoe.
All right, well, thanks for everybody for checking out the show today. If you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple, if you're listening on audio, we also have this on video. So today we actually have like a ton of cameras in the room.
Yeah,
which like kind of worked. Oh, it looks like one of them's turned off at the moment. But we're also on YouTube, so check out Full Grain Podcast on YouTube. If you're listening on YouTube, you could check it out anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks again, George. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks,
George.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys later.